All right, guys, we're heading into the second half of the Rumble cast. Me and Big Math breaking down some core topics for Warcraft Rumble. On its release week, talked a lot about PvP, tournaments, and the feature wish list in the first half of this. We're going to be jumping into a bit more like PvE orientated stuff, and then talking a little bit about buffs and nerfs coming as well. I'm going to start off with the BlizzCon news because there was a bit of a roadmap announced for Warcraft Rumble, which is quite interesting. They've already kind of said, we're bringing this to the table. We're going to be releasing this stuff over the next couple of seasons. And it looks like we are getting seasonal additions to Warcraft Rumble. So for those of you that don't know, Sylvanas was brought in season 1. She was a new hero. She actually released before the global launch. She came out 1 week before global launch. So for me and Big Math, she kind of came out and she was a new leader for us to try out in the week leading up to global launch. In season 2, we're getting a new troop, so some kind of new unit that we can use across all of our decks. Season 3 is going to bring a new Blackrock leader, which will be Emperor Thrissian, which is going to be really interesting because I'm wondering whether that'll be in line with the way that Emperor Thrissian works in Hearthstone. They'll have some kind of cost reduction mechanic. I'll be really interested to see how Emperor Thrissian works. And then season 4, we're bringing in Fairy Dragons. So they kind of teased this. It's like a resistant dragon minion that's coming out in season 4. Now, seasons last. How long do they last? Is it like 30 days a season? Is it about a month?
So I think it's actually 6 weeks. So it's a month and a half. And,
Month and a half.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect amount of time for a season. I'm just hoping they have like a little something in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think now you kind of introduced that season length. Do you think that's enough content? Because that's like, what, 4 times 6? That's 24 weeks. That's almost half a year's worth of content. And we're just getting 4 new editions. We've already had one. So in the next 20 weeks, Blizzard have said you can only expect to see 2 new minis and 1 new leader in the course of the next 20 weeks. How do you feel about that?
I think actually Ragnarok is not going to be part of a season. I think it's going to be part of the raids. So that would be 4 minis through. Wait, is that a third of a year? 6 times 3, right? So 18 weeks. So that's 4 months, right? So 4 minis in 4 months with the Ragnarok.
It's maybe not too bad, yeah.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's great. I think it's okay. But yeah, they need to have something more. In my opinion, I think it's a good idea to have a mini like about every month. But we need something else. If it's not another mini, we need something else to make the game feel fresh. Because we've been playing last season, and I think I've started at like the first half of the Sneed season. I think it was Sneed, and it felt a little bit long by the time we got to the next season. So I don't know, maybe shorting down the season so like 4 weeks or 5 weeks would be a good first step. But yeah, nonetheless, at least we know we're getting some content throughout the next 4 months for sure. And there's a lot of good content here.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to agree with you a little bit. I think there are some pros and cons to releasing units and leaders quickly. The cons are that ultimately, if you want those units and leaders to be competitive, especially once you've played the game for a while, you probably need to inject some cash. You probably need to pay for that to get them sort of up to speed. My Sylvanas deck is so far behind my other leaders because I just haven't played with her a lot, and I wasn't willing to spend a load of money to get Sylvanas up to scratch. Helped by the fact that Sylvanas is kind of bad. But if there was a really good like S tier leader that came out, I'd almost feel like I had to kind of spend to kind of keep up with the meta. So I guess there's pros and cons, and the pros are that obviously the less you introduce, the better it is for casual players. Like one of the big things with TFT that I think a lot of people. This is a completely different game, obviously. So if those of you guys don't know, TFT stands for Teamfight Tactics. It's a Riot game. One of the big things with Teamfight Tactics is that they balance patch so often that you basically have to relearn the game every 2 weeks. And for casuals, that's really hard. It's complete. Most people get to grips with one TFT comp over the course of a few weeks. And if that suddenly becomes really bad, a lot of people find it hard to keep up with the game. So I think there's definitely pros and cons. Like, you want the casuals to not feel alienated by new stuff coming in and making it difficult, but you also want to keep the hardcore dedicated audience engaged by not releasing stuff too slowly. So I kind of agree with you that once every month, like one thing a month would probably be a pretty good pace for me.
Yeah, and I think they're targeting the game a little bit more for like competitive players, right? So if we are looking at Clash Royale, which is much more on the casual side, I keep using Clash Royale as a good reference. So Clash Royale is obviously very simple, but in this game we have like so many different unit does so many different stuff. We have like slots. We have so many different traits. Every unit have like 5 different traits. We have trait slots. We have stuff like that. So I think they're aiming a little bit more for like a competitive audience or more hardcore fans. So that's why I think they should lean with a little bit more, releasing more minis. And also, most casual players will be stuck in the campaign for a little bit longer or a little bit. Yeah, they'll stay in the campaign for a little while until they until they unlock every single minis. So I don't think it will affect them that much. But yeah, it's what do you guys think? Tell us down below. I'm very curious to know what you guys think.
Absolutely, and I think I like that they have kind of indicated what's coming though. So they've kind of been quite clear about they are releasing stuff. It will come at this kind of pace. They're kind of doing it on the PvP seasonal rotation, which is quite nice. I assume like most of this stuff will be achievable for the Guild War chest. They tend to make the big seasonal reward like available for that first Guild War chest threshold. So I assume that's going to be the same for most of these things, which will be quite nice for people because you tend to get it at rare straight away from the guild chest. I think you get 10 stars, don't you, from the
Yes, you do.
so you pretty much get it at rare straight away. It's like
Yeah.
very close to being rare anyway. So yeah, I think there's a there's a lot to be excited for, but I just want to see kind of what Emperor Thrisian does. I want to know what this new troop does. I want to see kind of like how these other units can be slotted in and how exciting they are. Because they teased Chimera, which looked like an insane unit. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of like interested to see what the rest of the units are doing that they're bringing.
Yeah, well, I guess we could quickly go over what we know about these units. The
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one
yeah.
I checked is because when they announced Emperor Thorson, I realized we already had him in the game as a boss. Do you remember his level? He's
Yes, he kills things and he turns them into fire elementals, right?
exactly. So, what are you expecting as a kit around Emperor Thorson? I'm expecting something linked with that. I don't know.
It's difficult because right. So I always think of the iconic Emperor Thrisian that I think of is the one from Hearthstone, which is where you play him and every turn he reduces the cost of cards in your hand by 1.
And he was
However,
broken.
yes, he was broken. However, Rend kind of already does that with flying units, so I don't know whether maybe elemental units get reduced cost by 1, but I feel like that would be a little bit too kind of on the nose, given that Rend kind of has the same mechanic.
Mhm. I actually thought of doing like the opposite. I think all of the BlackRock leaders have a lot of synergies with like elemental damage and the resistant trait, but I would like to see maybe something that maybe Emperor Thorson could give armor to some units, something like that. That would be interesting. I would like to see like completely a different archetype. He's a blacksmith, right? If I'm not so familiar with the Warcraft lore, but he has a hammer, so I'm expecting him to be a blacksmith. So maybe he could create some armors and stuff like that. This is, I don't know. What do you guys want to see with Emperor Thorson?
Most dwarves are in the Warcraft universe as some kind of blacksmith. So the other thing is that you think about like the actual fight in World of Warcraft. So it's from the Emperor Thrisian fight is from the original. We call it like, obviously vanilla World of Warcraft. And he was from the Blackrock Mountain, which is not a raid per se. It was just one of the first dungeons that were available in terms of the later end levels. He was from Lower Blackrock Spire. I think, yeah, he was the lower or the Blackrock Depths. I can't remember. He's one of the two bosses from like there. And he had a mechanic where he had Moira or something like that. I can't quite remember because it's been so long. I was probably like 15 when I was doing this dungeon for the first time. But he has like an ad that you can't kill. You have to kind of just tank her. So I'm wondering whether he like summons his daughter or something. You know, like maybe he's got an extra summon that he brings to the table. More, it would be interesting to have a leader that was more like a squad leader. So he like summons his daughter and is kind of like a squad leader. That'd be very interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure entirely. I like your idea. I like the idea of like every elemental unit you play has armored, but that would be like really broken for stuff like flame elemental. So
Maybe like level up some armored units, or I don't know, if you play some armored units, he's gonna level up or something like that.
he also loves gold, by the way. So Emperor Thracian loves gold, so there might be like a
Okay.
mining gold trait type thing that's like a bit like, but then Sneed loves
Like
gold, so
Sneed,
that's kind
yeah.
of Sneed's thing. So yeah, I don't want to speculate too hard. We will be getting him quite soon within the next couple of months, so I guess we'll find out. But
the first one is Chimera, right? So the
yeah,
Thaurissan is the second to release, or am I? We know next season is yeah, it's the Chimera, and the one after that I think is Thaurissan. No, after that is the Fairy Dragon, and then it's Thaurissan, if I'm correct.
no, I think it's Chimera, Thaurissan, and then Fairy Dragon's the final one.
Yeah, but I guess we know exactly the dates, right? If because this season is ending on the 10th of November, sorry, December. So that means we are gonna get the Chimera on the 10th of December, and then what's 6 week after that? That would be what, end of January? January. So end of January we should get Thaurissan, and then perhaps he's from BlackRock, right? So are we getting a new? We're not gonna get the raid at the same time as Thaurissan, right?
Well, that's interesting because that would make sense. So Thaurissan is from the area in World of Warcraft where Molten Core is, and Molten Core is the Ragnaros raid in World of Warcraft. So there is Blackrock Mountain. Yeah, Blackrock Mountain is where Molten Core is, and that's where Ragnaros lives in the Warcraft universe, at least when you fight him for the first time. Anyway, you fight Ragnaros twice. I played too much World of Warcraft, just so you know.
Well, that's perfect. That's perfect.
I spent many years. So yeah, I mean, we'll get to the raid soon because like I kind of want to talk about it. There's some hype images that we can show on the video as well while we're going. But yeah, I think maybe we could see the raid around the same time as Emperor Thracian. That would make sense very thematically, in my opinion. So yeah, potentially that would be the time we can maybe expect the raid.
So that would be middle of January or end of January, and then 6 weeks after that, that would be like mid-March or start of March. So that would be the Fairy Dragon, which I would expect would come with the, I think it's called Moonglade. Is Fairy Dragon from Moonglade? Yes. So,
yeah, Fairy Dragon is Moonglade related. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also have Scholomance, and then this is hard to predict when the Scholomance dungeon is going to release. But yeah, so I guess this is a general timeline. So we've talked about Thaurissan, maybe the Chimera. Are you excited for the Chimera?
I can't remember what it does, but it looks like it's going to be I imagine it's going to be a high cost unit.
Yeah, it should be because it's a beast dragon. So the way they explained it is that it's the first beast flying unit that isn't squad, because we have harpies and vultures, but these are squad minis. And the Chimera actually has two different heads that does two different attack. I don't remember exactly which one
of them. One of them melted armor. I remember that right. So one of them broke armored minions because it had like a poisonous attack.
Perhaps I thought they said something about like a chain lightning attack.
Oh yeah, that's also right. No, that makes
possible?
more sense. Yeah. So I think actually I was wrong. I think one of the heads does lightning attacks and one of the heads does poison attacks. So yeah, maybe you'll get like a Frostwolf Shaman style chain lightning from one of them, and then you'll get like the poison attack from the other one. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's usually lightning and poison was kind of what the Chimera did. I'm just trying to remember because that's also from like the way back in the Warcraft 3 days. The Chimeras in Warcraft 3 shot lightning. So yes, so it has to be that kind of lightning. So the Chimeras in Warcraft 3, the units that you could actually build in the game, shot lightning, and it wasn't chain lightning, it was just like giant bolts of lightning. So definitely a lightning attack, and I think I remember them saying something about a poison attack.
Poison attack, right? Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, is it going to be like on the right side of the Chimera, there's one attack, and then on the left side there's another attack, or do both attack hit everywhere around it? I don't know. It could be really unique if it's like split half and half.
I think that must be so hard to code, though.
Yep.
Like to actually get that to work in practice, it must be mental.
I don't know. I think it could be done.
Like they just split the aggro down the middle, so whichever way the unit's facing, it has like a 90-degree or like 180-degree circle on that side that one head hits, and then
yeah, something like that. That could be done. But that would be hard to play. That would be hard to play.
That'd be really hard to play. Like I feel like it'd be easier. I feel like if you can have a chain lightning attack, to me it makes sense they attack the same unit. because they'll have like a tank busting poison shot, and then they'll have a squad clearing chain lightning shot, and the chain lightning just sparks off the main target that they're hitting to try and clear out squads. So that would
makes
be like,
sense.
that's
That
how
makes
I would
sense.
feel like it would play, right?
Yeah, but yeah, we are gonna have to see for the Chimera. Yep. Definitely a cool mini. But I am actually more excited about the other one because that was like my favorite card in Hearthstone. The Fairy Dragon, I think was in Hearthstone as a 3/2.
Untargetable by spells. Maybe
Exactly.
Fairy Dragon, because I think that makes sense. So it's resistant to elemental attacks, and all spells are elemental attacks. I don't think any spells deal physical damage, right? Unless Execute does, but I can't remember if it does or not.
Execute does, I think, or
Oh,
it's not elemental, but I don't think it's
okay.
physical either. Perhaps.
I think you can only do elemental or physical damage in the game. I think you either deal elemental or you do physical, right?
Well, I know that if you execute a gargoyle, you're still gonna do 50%. So you're
Oh, is
not
it?
gonna
Oh, so
do
maybe it's true
50.
damage. So maybe it's true
Yeah,
damage.
it is
Just
true
deals-
damage. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You're right. Maybe I'm just talking at my bum then. Well done, Big Math, for correcting me. But no, I think like that makes sense. Like resistant to elemental attacks, like it's immune to spells in
Yeah.
Hearthstone. So kind of makes sense that it's resistant to elemental attacks. I'm kind of interested to see what it does. Like Fairy Dragon usually shot like a thing out that kind of passed through units. So I'm wondering whether Fairy Dragon is going to shoot a projectile that passes through units. It'll be the first thing in the game that could do that, but it'd be interesting to see. I don't know if they teased anything about Fairy Dragon.
Yeah, that's crazy. Why I'm so excited about the Fairy Dragon for me is that's going to be probably going to be on the lower end of the cost side, which because we just got like Core Hound was expensive. We got Sneed as a leader. Now we got Sylvanas that is super expensive. So the Chimera is probably going to be super expensive as well. Having some smaller minis, I love having some cycle minis. Perhaps as a 2 gold, I would see the Fairy Dragon would make a lot of sense. I think that would be very, very cool to have. I think that would be the second resistant cycle mini because the Quillbore has resistant, but maybe the Fairy Dragon could have like a unique passive that is even better. Maybe it just doesn't take damage from spell at all, something like that.
That'd be really interesting. But I feel like yeah, maybe it's immune to spells. Like a cycle mini that doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it's immune to spells would be very interesting. Slightly OP, I think, but like it'd be really interesting to see if it was.
Yeah, it depends on the health, on the damage, and all of that.
Yeah.
I agree.
We could talk about these minis for days, but we probably should talk about some of the other big news that came out of BlizzCon, which of course we kind of touched on it, was the raids. We've kind of already talked about when we anticipate this coming out, but raids will be a co-op game mode that are coming to Warcraft Rumble. As you can see on the screen right now, they'll be somewhere below the dungeons, and it sounds like you'll be only doing it with people in your guild, so you'll be queuing up with someone from your guild to do a raid, and it's going to be like it's supposed to be challenging bosses. I think they said it was going to be like Molten Core was going to be level 27. So I've heard that it's like a very high level gate for the raids, and by beating the first raid, you'll be able to unlock Ragnaros, which I don't think he's a leader. I think he's a mini. So you're going to get Ragnaros, which is really odd because I feel like Ragnaros should be a leader because he's such a leading character in World of Warcraft. But it sounds like from what I'm reading, it's going to be a mini. But what do you think of that? First of all, like obviously, I think raids are a good thing. Clearly, co-op stuff in the game is a good thing. What do you think about the anticipated level cap? Obviously, we've got a few months to get there, but I feel like I don't see level 27 being anywhere close for me, and I've spent a decent amount of money on the game. So
It always depends, right? So if the levels, because what I'm thinking is like perhaps it's level 27, but we're 2 players against that boss, so maybe that's why
True, yeah.
it's so high. But I think you're right. I think it's gonna be very hard to beat, which I guess is the good way of doing it. We want it to be a challenge. Level 27, that is because guys, the amount of XP you need to level up, or the amount of gold you need to spend in the game to level up from like 20 to 30 is so much more than from 1 to 20. It's a crazy amount of gold and time you have to spend to level up. So going from like 26 to 27 on every single mini is going to take forever. and yeah, being like 2 level under can be extremely hard. But again, if we're, let's say, I think we could be 25, something like that would be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you and me, we could be
Yeah,
25.
we could be 25 by then. So my highest level at the moment with so let's take into account the gold +3. I think my highest level is a huntress who is at level 23. So she's level 20 without the gold. To get on XP, she's rare with both talents unlocked. To get XP to get her to the next level requires 25,000 experience. So the next level after this, yeah.
So it's and from level 20 to 21, that's 25,000, and from 19 to 20, that's 12,000. So then after that, it should be at least 50,000.
At least 50,000, which is crazy. It'll be so hard to progress those units, which is why, by the way, this is something that I always tell people when they say how pay to win is the game. I say, if you get into PvP and you're able to get to around level 20 with your units, so level 20, 21, that's very easily achievable for a free-to-play account within a few months, easily. You can get your level 20 on your units, for like, especially on some of them where you get rare. Like, you can build a good PvP deck, and you can be level 7 in PvP. To face someone that's level 9, you will have to be facing like a Giga Whale for someone to be at like level 9. And even then, level 7 to level 9 is not unbeatable if you're just better than them in terms of mechanics. So, you know, it's hard. Obviously, 2-level disadvantage in PvP is hard, but I regularly beat level 8s in PvP, and most of my stuff is level 7s. So, like, if you can get to level 7 in PvP, so like the average, like the 20-21 barrier, that is where the real barrier in this game starts. Beyond the level 20 and 21 mark, that's where the real barrier to level up starts. And actually, if you can get to that point, you actually can become quite competitive in PvP overall.
Yeah. I guess this is a conversation for another time. We have so many different topics
I know,
go over. But yeah, for me, what I've realized is that I really do enjoy that we are all at the same level when battling, because now I've learned so many different interactions. So I won't talk too much about this topic, but I really enjoy the fact that I know if I play a Quill War on a Darkspear Troll, the Darkspear Troll will win. I love to know these interactions, but then all of these interactions goes out the window once you get a level over your opponent or a level under your opponent. So anyway, we'll have to talk about that another day, about the level.
It's why we need a test mode. We need a test mode so we can figure out the exact level interactions and discrepancies. But hey, look, as you said, me and you would tangent forever if we could. I think going back to the raids is obviously like a good thing, and I'm having a look at the image. I'll bring the image up on the video when I edit this in. But it's showing you all of the bosses from Molten Core. So every boss in Molten Core is shown on the image, and I'm wondering whether this is going to be a 7-boss raid.
Well, actually, they clarified that a little bit. So it's there is 7 bosses, but it's separated through 3 wings, and you have Ragnaros at the end, and you pick between the 2 bosses, which is a very cool concept. So I guess I can explain quickly how it works. So like I just mentioned, you're gonna queue up with a friend in your guild. So right now we know that we can play through guild. We're not sure about any other system to matchmake, but you are going to go through 4 wave encounter against different bosses, but you choose which boss you want to fight through all of these different wings, and they all have very different abilities. They all have different abilities, and I'm not sure how it works with decks. I'm not sure if you can you have to keep your same deck for the first wing or up to Ragnaros, but this is going to have a huge impact on which boss we want to fight in the different wings.
If I just read 2 centimeters below that image, I would have read all of this information, but for some reason I didn't do that. It looks like it says that you will have to choose which leaders and or decide which leaders to bring to each encounter. So I imagine between the wings and between the boss fights, you're going to be able to make choices to change your leaders up and stuff like that. But my anticipation is going to be very, very hard to beat them because of the rewards. So the first wing will unlock a boost slot for an enemy of your choice, which I assume that means the platinum boost slots. So right now we've got bronze, silver, and gold. And that gives you +1, +2, +3 respectively. Platinum is going to give you +4 levels. Wing 2 will give you a legendary tome, and Wing 3 a legendary core. And by the way, the only way right now that you can get a legendary core in the game as a reward is by completing the last heroic, what is it called? I think there's also some on the PvP ladder, but it's very, very high up. There's also the PvP ladder, but there's also the last heroic area, the Dracosath heroic area. That if you complete all of that, that gives you a legendary core. So it's one of the only few places that you can get a legendary core, and they're very, very hard to achieve. So I imagine it's going to be quite hard, and they're probably setting the challenge bar quite high to be able to clear these and find those kind of rewards.
Oh yeah.
Which only makes me think how insanely powerful Ragnaros is going to be as a mini. If it's that hard to get to and complete, like how good is Ragnaros going to be? At which point I'm having flashbacks to facing Onyxia's breath in PvP, and I'm just like, if I can't clear Ragnaros because I've not spent enough, am I just going to get owned? Because Onyxia's breath is kind of ridiculous. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think they mentioned that Ragnaros is actually a 4-part boss. So there's going to be 4 different steps where he's going to have different abilities. So very excited for that. I hope it's another like a 6. I think Onyxia, if I'm not mistaken, is actually like a 6-minute game. I love that idea, that concept, especially since we're going to be doing it together. It's going to be much more fun if it's like a longer game, in my opinion.
100% agree. I've seen some videos of people beating Onyxia, and that already looks quite challenging. Like, obviously, people were doing it with Sneed before he got nerfed. Like, there was this thing where you could just level up Sneed like really, really well on the Onyxia map, and he would just like almost do most of the damage himself. They've changed that now. But even Onyxia was like a multiple phase fight, right? So it's like a phased fight, and that's not even a raid. So but yeah, very excited. Like Ragnaros in World of Warcraft had like a submerged phase where you had to fight ads. He had an immersed phase, and then when they brought Ragnaros back, he had a phase where he grew legs, and you had to fight him with legs. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I think they could do, and I think they're obviously kind of drawing on that Warcraft nostalgia as well for these raids, for like a lot of the people that kind of enjoy the Warcraft universe.
Well, even people who don't enjoy the Warcraft universe, I think like the lore building from this game is very, very good. With all the theme seasons and stuff with the minis, I think they're just nailing the game. There really isn't any aspect of the game right now that I feel like are bad by any means. I think they're all great or okay in some aspects.
Agreed. I need to move us on to the next topic, because otherwise we will be talking forever. They are bringing new dungeons and zones. You've already mentioned it, Scholomance and Moonglade. Moonglade I won't touch on too much, because right now it mostly looks like concept imagery and kind of like very early stage stuff for Moonglade that they've been sharing. So that feels like it's a little bit further away than maybe some of the stuff like Scholomance. But it looks like it's going to be obviously some new boss arenas and stuff like that. So it's the final zone of the campaign, at least for now, after Blackrock Mountain. So it's just going to be another normal sort of PvE area. They're going to be slightly higher level than the Blackrock Mountain ones, I assume, to bridge that gap between Blackrock Mountain and Onyxia, which is quite a big jump, even from the heroic side of view. And there's going to be some like really interesting bosses like Brightwing, Brightwing is basically what most fairy dragons are modeled off. There's Brimera, Ysera, and Cenarius. So there's a lot of like really cool bosses that Mooglade are going to bring to the table. I anticipate that they'll like do, and this is just like a small tangent, I promise I won't talk too long on this, but I anticipate that they'll do stuff like Outlands, they'll do stuff like Ice Crown Citadel, they'll do stuff where they bring Northrend and other areas of Warcraft into it, but probably not within the next 6 to 8 months. But Scholomance is the more interesting one for me, Big Math, because it's a undead dungeon. It's three bosses: Jan Disparov, Rattlegore, and Dark Master Gandling. And it's the first, I believe, like undeady themed dungeon that we've got. So kind of interested. That's going to be exciting. I can't remember much about Scholomance because it was one of the very early dungeons in World of Warcraft. I knew that it was really well designed in terms of like getting around it, but I knew that Rattlegore was one of the most insanely annoying fights ever, so I'm wondering whether he's going to be annoying in Scholomance as well. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for a new dungeon. I feel like I've done these dungeons to death, and it's only been 2 months. So another dungeon would be nice.
And I'm telling you, from an outsider perspective, all what you're saying sounds just amazing. I haven't played any of those dungeons. I played, like I said, I played Warcraft 3 and Hearthstone. So yeah, it's actually so very cool to see that these are real dungeons from World of Warcraft. I didn't even know that a few days ago. I think it's very fun. It's good to introduce like new players to the Warcraft universe.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the benefits of Warcraft as an IP. It's got such a broad amount of content to pull from with lots of really great lore, and everything's kind of really well thought out. I mean, the World of Warcraft
Oh
has
yeah.
done so well for so many years for a reason, right? So that's kind of one of the benefits of having a game like this. This is why I like it compared to Clash Royale. Clash Royale has built its IP, but it hasn't got a lot of backstory. Kind of, is there isn't a huge wealth of backstory to Clash Royale. It's just more of like a fun game. Whereas what they've got with Warcraft is like you've got this wealth of like content to pull from.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's just really cool. I love it.
Yeah, they could release leaders for years. They could release a leader every week for years, and they would still have content or mini for every single week. Yeah, the potential of this universe is just crazy, and I'm just so happy to be in the game where that universe is just so unique and so creative. To me, Warcraft is like the benchmark of all those mythical universe, or their gold standard. It's very fun to play another game in that universe for sure.
Right. I realized that we have talked forever about this. We're supposed to have spent 15 minutes on the topic, and we've ended up spending nearly 35. So we're going to move on to the buff and nerfs wish list. And I think to make this simple, without taking too much time, 3 units that we want to buff and 3 units that we want to nerf. And I think me and you will probably agree on at least one. But I'll let you start because I'm very good at talking too much. So I'm going to let you start.
So I'm not gonna go with maybe the strongest unit, or should we exclude leaders? Should we only go minis? How are we doing this?
I know. I think leaders are good. If you feel like there's some leaders that you want to cover, I think leaders are good.
Okay, well, there's one leader I want to cover, but I'm not going to cover it now, just in case you do. I'm going to go for the safe pilot slash Quillbore as the first nerf. I think if you nerf one, the other one also gets a little bit of a nerf. They're just too good right now. I'll go with safe pilot. I think the damage potential of the safe pilot is crazy. With the Gnomish cloaking device, the safe pilot does so much damage. It can deal with anything. Basically, it's very, very hard to lose on a trade by playing a safe pilot. And plus, you combine that with the fact that it can get chest. It has elemental AoE damage, which is very good to deal with, like all the gargoyles, the Baron Rivet, there, stuff like that. That is armor. I think safe pilot needs a nerf. I've been playing it in every single one of my lists. I've been saying to all my viewers to play safe pilot in any lists. Can you tell me one deck where safe pilot doesn't fit in?
No, safe pilot fits into every deck.
So do you agree? Do you agree with my first pick?
Yes, I agree with your first pick. Although, interestingly, maybe we do one each. We do one each.
Yeah.
This would be fun, actually.
Let's do
Although
that.
I think there is a bigger problematic card, and it's not the card; it's the talent. I think Flame Burst. I think Flame Burst needs a nerf for Wellpegs. It turns a very mediocre unit into probably the best unit in the game, and I actually even like it over Safe Pilot for the very reason that it turns into a flying unit. And so then, if you're using it against ground units, it basically can wipe them out. If you use one Wellpegs with Flame Burst versus Footman, they can basically all die. And it's just one of those cards with a talent that just makes this unit ridiculous. But it's in the same vein. I think me and you are on the same vein here, that both Safe Pilot and Wellpegs with Flame Burst fulfill a very similar role. I actually run both of them together in a lot of decks because it basically just gives me 2 units that essentially blow up the entire enemy backline all the time. So that would be my first choice for nerf. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think the Whelp eggs are very, very strong with obviously the Flame Burst talent in the game. I think it's a little bit more. You need a little bit more skills to play the Whelp eggs, because you need to place it perfectly.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I agree that this talent should get nerfed, and I think it's not even that much for the power level, but just I feel like a lot of minis in the game have talents that are just much better than others, which makes all the other talents useless, which removes a lot of versatility or a lot of different decks, because everyone's going to play the Flame Burst talent, and there's no reason you should play Rookery or Chromatic Plating. So yeah, I think, and this goes for the Whelp eggs, but also for a lot of other minis. I think they need to adjust a few of those talents, but definitely yes, the first one on the list. I think Flame Burst is a good pick.
Yeah, and I
As
think
a
when I'm talking about when I'm talking about nerfs, I will talk about maybe about talents that are problematic as well, because
yeah.
I think if you just reduce the damage that Flame Burst did, it would actually be a very balanced unit, maybe even a little bit underpowered. So just reducing the amount of damage that Flame Burst actually does will probably make this unit much more, I think, like palatable.
All right. Do you want me to go for my second one?
Yes, go for your
All
second
right.
one.
And I think this one, everyone wants me to say it. Everyone wants to see Baron Rivendare nerfed, and I agree completely. Baron Rivendare is completely broken, and I think I've been playing against like 70% of my games are against Baron Rivendare, which is crazy. Everyone knows that Baron Rivendare is broken, so everyone is, and it's a little bit our fault because we're telling everyone to pick Baron Rivendare as their first leader. But yeah, everyone is picking Baron Rivendare with Chill of the Grave, and even the other talents are good too. But the way I want to see a nerf on Baron Rivendare is to reduce the time, or increase the time between two skeleton spawn. I think that would be the best way of nerfing Baron Rivendare. I think the unit by itself, when you play it, is good, but it's the fact that there's constantly skeletons spawning everywhere at all time. It makes it impossible to send a miner unless you protect it, but then you protect it, and whatever you play to protect the miner is going to cost gold, so then you just lose off the gold that you spent on mining. So yeah, I think Baron Rivendare needs a nerf. I actually think Baron Rivendare needs an emergency nerf, and yeah, to kind of fix the meta, because if we are going to be stuck in this meta for too long, it's going to be quite a bit annoying.
I think that's a really good nerf, just increasing the time, because he's a good unit in his own right. He's fast, he's armored, and he deals elemental damage, right? So he's a counter to other other armored tanks, because he deals damage that can slice through their armor. But most tanks deal physical damage, so he gets reduced damage from tanks. He's one of the
Yeah.
few tanks in the game that deals elemental damage, which makes him I think, very powerful in his own right. But you're right. The number one thing that Baron does is map control. It just gives you instant map control for absolutely zero resource invested, and especially when you have the Chill of the Grave talent, where you have ranged skeleton mages spawning, you can't even gain map control through air superiority. You have to, you're not even able to kind of adequately just throw a Griffin Rider down and deal with all the skeletons running down one lane. It's yeah, you're right. It just and on the old map, it was the case of it took meeting stones for free without having to invest any resources to take meeting stones. So yeah, it's just the map control that Baron gives that I completely agree with you is just way too strong at this point in time.
Yep. I'll let you go
Okay.
with your second.
My second, yeah. So Goblin Sappers. I know that you love them, and I know that they're a bit in trend right now because of the current PvP map. But a 2-cost mini should not one-shot a tower. A 2-cost mini should not be able, especially because it has a really, really insane talent where they become fast. It should not one-shot a tower. I get it, like, and I understand the niche that they fulfill, and that they are very easy to kill if you have the right tech in your deck. But I still think that they just deal a little bit too much damage to tower on their first hit. That would be my only nerf on them. Just maybe require 2 cycles of Goblin Sappers to take out a tower easily, because I just feel like 1 cycle of Goblin Sappers, two gold just for getting them to connect, like killing a tower, feels a little bit insane to me personally. You might disagree because I know you love this unit, but that's just my personal take.
Actually, I don't disagree that much, but I think that's new to me. I didn't think the Goblin Sappers were that good in the meta, because everyone's playing Baron Riffy there. There's skeletons that can kill them pretty easily.
Yeah.
These skeletal mages. We're also seeing some Baron Riffy there list. Some Ren Blackhands list. So some air units can take down the Sappers pretty easily as well, because there's the Drake, there's Ren, there's all of that. So I thought they weren't that great. We're not seeing Goblin Sappers in any list. The only list I'm seeing Goblin Sapper in is the one I created yesterday on stream. It's very rare that I see the Sappers, but I think I understand now the potential of this unit. And plus, if we are going to nerf Baron Riven there, if we are going to nerf some other stuff like that, I think the Goblin Sappers need to be nerfed at the same time, or else they're going to be way too strong. And they are also very annoying to play against.
They are, and I actually put out a video, I think on like 2 days ago, where I actually run a Baron list with Goblin Sappers. So I get the best of both worlds. I put Goblin Sappers in a Baron deck where I get the natural map control from having got Baron, and then I just put Goblin Sappers in to take a tower. Even without the stealth. I think they're better with the stealth, don't get me wrong. I think you've created the better version of that. But I think if you can even just get the map control and lane control to send them down a lane anyway, like they're... Especially because on this particular map, the distance between your spawn point and the enemy tower is so short that it's so easy to connect and take a tower. So yeah, I think the Goblin Sappers, and especially if we rotate. What was that map that was the first when I first joined? What was the map before the one we were just on, the desert map?
Oh, with the 3 lanes, the one in the middle with the 2.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name, unfortunately.
But the towers were even closer on that map. Like the towers were even closer on that map in terms of taking them. So because I think there were 3 towers in total on that map each. Or was it just 2? I can't remember.
My question to you is, how do you feel about the Sappers once we change the turrets? So we are going to receive in PvP some new turrets very soon, in 5 days. And if it's the flame, or I'm not sure how it's called, the fire turret or the flame tower.
The dragon one, yeah.
Well, then I think the Sappers are going to drop hard in the meta, because the way that tower works, if I'm correct, it does much more damage at the start of the cone than on the edges. So I think if the Sappers start to charge, they're going to get burnt, but I'm not sure about that interaction yet.
I don't know what the wind-up time on the animation is. That's the only caveat that I have. So it takes, for instance, we can compare their sort of attack type to a Drake, and a Drake has a 2.5 seconds wind-up time on its attack. So I don't know what the wind-up time would be on the tower's attack, whether you could connect the Sappers before it has time to actually burn them. I've not seen the interaction in play. I think you could probably test it in some of the PVE maps, but I've not seen the interaction in play. Other than that, there's a workaround. We just use your stealth version and they'll connect anyway. So, there's always going to be a workaround for towers.
Well, that would be on the turret that doesn't have the stealth detection, right? So only on the side turrets.
Yes. But then Goblin Sappers on the main towers are always a bit sort of an added bonus. They're like a nice added bonus most of the time, right?
Yeah, I agree. All right. For my number 3, I am actually going to go for another undead meaty, and it's the Necromancer. So I think it's similar to the issue of Baron Riven there, with the amount of skeletons you spawn and stuff like that with the Jewel Skull talent. So have you been playing Necromancer at all in your decks?
So I don't play Jeweled Skulls. I actually play Cult of the Damned, which when you kill something, it spawns another skeleton, which I think this makes this a very strong defensive unit. But Jeweled Skulls is also very good. I think you could split hairs between the two of them.
Yeah, I think the Necromancer is extremely, extremely strong. It's not even the skeletons that does most of the job, but it's the fact that for me, the skeletal mages slow the target, and then we have the Necromancer himself that does so much damage from his air AoE. No, it's not an AoE. Sorry, single target elemental damage. I think the potential from the Necromancer is just too good. Just the Necromancer itself, I think, is at least worth like 3 gold. and then we have skeletal mages with that. I think the Necromancer is just broken. It destroys gargoyles once again. I guess we're seeing it. We have a lot of armored minis that are strong, and then which makes the Necromancer just so good. The fact that there's skeletons in front makes it so hard to kill the Necromancer. This completely kills the Worgen. It's so hard for a Worgen to actually connect on a Necromancer. The Worgen could be good, but it's so hard to destroy the Necromancer with the Worgen because you have to play it perfectly so that the Worgen lands its first hit on the Necromancer and its second, which is really hard to do if the skeletons just start getting in the way. So yeah, do you agree with my third nerf?
No, I do not think Necromancer is broken. I think it's a good unit, but I don't think it's broken. And the reason I think that is that because there are lots of units that I do think you can counter it with, like Wellpegs with Flame Burst instantly blow this up, and its skeletons, and that's obviously a very powerful unit in the meta right now. If we were to nerf Flame Burst, then I think maybe we could look at Necromancer. Safe Pilot at equivalent levels with Gnomish Cloaking Device will kill Necromancer. But
that's why Safe Pilot was higher on my list.
Yeah, sure. And I have had success with Premeditation Worgen killing this. Also, Maiev is decent. There are some. I agree with you though. Like for the most part, like it is also quite protected versus Stonehoof Tauren, which is one of the traditional units that are quite good at dealing with backline because it has the skeletons, so it generally gets protected versus Stonehoof Tauren. I think it's strong. I just don't know if I'd nerf it just yet. It's still 4 gold, so it's still like it's 4 golds on that threshold of being like a very powerful power play unit to an extent. Like if you think about the other 4 gold units in the meta, things like Tyrion, things like Baron, etc. Though you know, they're obviously their leaders. 4 gold's kind of at that level where you expect it to be a unit that you can play around. So like Gargoyle was 4 gold, for instance. You kind of want to play around a unit that's 4 gold to an extent. So the problem is, though, I've never played it with Jeweled Skulls. So maybe if I played this with Jeweled Skulls and I think this is just like silly broken, I might change my mind. Cult of the Damned is always made like Necromancer, in my opinion. The one thing I would say is I think Necromancer is one of the best defensive units in the game. It's one of the best counter-attacking defensive units behind your base because you stick it there and it can basically clear out literally everything by itself and then carry on, which is why I like Cult of the Damned, because you can build a little army.
The thing is, I think I've just seen Necromancers in too many lists. And I remember when I was playing last night, I just had to keep my Safe Pilot every single time for the Necromancer. And if we don't deal with the Necromancer, once it arrives to your base with like an army of skeletons, it's just so much pressure. And it's obnoxious to play against at that power level. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think it's not an unfair assessment. I don't think it's the worst unit in the world that we could have picked for a nerf. So I'm not going to argue with you anymore on that front. I think that's fine.
Should you go for your third one?
Yeah, my third one. I'm actually going to go for a leader, and my leader is Tyrion. I think Tyrion is a little bit too strong. Mostly because it's a little bit like Baron. If it's not a Baron list you're facing on ladder, it's a Tyrion list a lot of the time. I think that the only thing that I'd nerf about Tyrion is the duration of his Divine Shield talent. There was some interesting discussion on the Reddit about Divine Shield versus By the Light, which are the two kind of the most common talents that you see on Tyrion. The reason I like and prefer Divine Shield is that Divine Shield means that even if you subject Tyrion to Blizzard or some kind of AoE spell or some kind of burst damage, he survives through it, and the extra heals that he gets off in those cycles can often be clutch in those situations to kind of keep himself and maybe others in that zone alive. But 5 seconds, where if Tyrion's taking aggro, he takes 0 damage, heals himself, becomes an invulnerable tank for 5 seconds, feels kind of insane. Like, it's just a very, very strong talent, and makes Tyrion like a really super strong 4 cost. I'd maybe nerf it to 3 or 4 seconds. 3 is probably too much, so maybe down to 4 seconds, just to give it a little less of the edge that it's got right now. That'd be my only take on Tyrion, I think.
So you would nerf the talent more than the unit itself?
Maybe reduce the healing amount as well, just a little bit. Make By the Light feel a bit more powerful in terms of, like, you know, his I think his base heal's already very good. So, yeah. You know, I think I don't think By the Light feels like giga impactful, because you're only going to really feel that heal on the big tanks. And so if you're running like a fire elemental or an abomination or a footman list, then it makes sense to have by the light. But I don't like those deck lists as much as the kind of fast-paced Tyrion, where Tyrion's a bit more like his front line.
Yeah.
Me and you like different Tyrion lists. I know you like the footman lists, and I'm not the big fan
I
of the footman
love
list.
that's my favorite list. That's my favorite list in the game. So I hope they don't nerf Tyrion. My take on it is that I think people haven't really understood how to counter Tyrion as of yet in the meta. I've actually done a lot of theory crafting when I'm building a deck right now. So I do agree Tyrion is really good. What I like to do when I build a deck is I think of can it beat Baron? Can it beat Baron? And that usually is Gargoyle, Necromancer, stuff like that. Can it beat Tyrion? And can it beat Rend? And for Tyrion, the way I found out, some good ways to destroy Tyrion is to play. Obviously, we need some elemental AoE damage. That's the way I counter Tyrion. And also a very, very good answer against Tyrion. And I've actually played that in my Maev list, which I've been sent by top players. And it is played Polymorph. So Polymorph is very, very good against Tyrion and the Footmen and stuff like that. It removes I believe it removes Armored and Resistant when the unit is polymorphed. And if your opponent is playing Divine Shield, well, you can polymorph before the Divine Shield triggers, and that's a very good counter. But yeah, so polymorph, then Ogre Mage is another way to counter this Tyrion list. Ogre Mage with the Frost talent, I've had a lot of success with. I think the Safe Pilot is also very good against that list. So I think we have a lot of options, but I do agree that Tyrion is on the stronger side of the leaders for sure, especially for newer players. So I would agree with a nerf, but I don't want it too much. I love having some good healers in the game. We only have 2 healers with Tyrion and the Frostwolf Shaman.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't nerf healing too much. But some way they could fix that is introducing a mini or a talent that puts some anti-heal. Let's say the Bat Rider talent could reduce healing by 50%, just like an Ignite in Wild Rift. Something like that. There's other ways, but I do agree that the Tyrion could be hit with a little bit of a nerf.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's there's a lot of other units. Like I think people might point towards Huntress, but I think Huntress is fine because she's 5 cost. You know, I think I think Huntress is quite a balanced unit for the cost that she is. Harpies are very easy to kill and deal with, despite their massive DPS. Interestingly, Polymorph, I think it's probably one of the most underused spells that should be used way more in PvP. Like it is just such a ridiculously good spell, Polymorph. It's very good. But yeah, I think that we've got a relatively good kind of look at the nerfs there. Should we have a look at buffs? And I'll kick off buffs this time round.
Go ahead.
And this is an easy one because it's got to be the most garbage unit in the game. Mountaineer. Mountaineer is it's up at the top. Mountaineer is just such a bad unit. It's a bad necromancer for 6 gold. Is essentially how I look at Mountaineer. Yes, okay, the bear is super tanky, but the Mountaineer itself, he goes too far away from the bear. He's very easily countered with unbound minions. If you think obviously it's hard to hit Necromancer with Worgen, but my gosh, you'd have to be blind not to be able to hit the Mountaineer with the Worgen.
Yep.
So he's got all of the bad parts of all of the good parts of Necromancer, but like just done badly. Like it's the same concept as Necromancer, but just done badly. And obviously you're showing the Intimidation talent, which I think is probably the best talent that you can have for this guy. But sometimes the bears just ends up being too far away for that to even have an impact. There was an element where, you know, obviously there's a lot of talents that lend themselves toward beasts, and maybe there's some wild theory craft deck that comes out that's all about beasts, where you run Mountaineer plus Prowler plus like Hogger, and just like you have like an absolutely insane beast list. But no one's really kind of thought about that right now, and also Mountain is just too expensive. I think he needs to come down to maybe 5 mana. I think there needs to be a tether range where he always stays within a certain range of his bear. But other than that, like that's kind of how I would tackle Mountaineer.
I would even agree that for 5 it would still suck. I think for 5 I would still take the Necromancer any day.
I think if you went down to 4, you'd have to slightly reduce the HP on the bear.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, I'm not too I'm not keen on the Mountaineer either. I almost forget sometimes that like it's a unit in the game. Sometimes I see it in PvP and then I know it's either a bot or a new player. Yeah, it's a horrible unit in the game. Should I go with my number 1 buff?
Yes, please.
I will go with Sylvanas. So, same concept here, and I think it's even more important than the Mountaineer because it's a leader. I think Sylvanas, even if she wasn't a leader, wouldn't be worth 6. I think she should at least go to 5. 5 is a good first step. Some people have been saying even 4. The issue with Sylvanas is, for me, that her passive ability, or how I think it's a new trait. It's the Haunt trait, where she transforms into a Banshee. I think it's not good. I think it never lands. It's extremely rare that it lands. The only time I've been making Sylvanas work is against Abominations, which is kind of rare because then Sylvanas is going to get pulled by Abomination. The Abomination is going to kill Sylvanas, and then the Banshee is always going to possess the Abomination. But even then, we usually do a lot of damage to the Abomination before Sylvanas even dies. So we get like a half health Banshee or a Abomination. And yeah, I kind of wish the Banshee had a talent or something like that. I don't know. I would just reduce her gold because I think she's very, very fun, especially with her ability. I think it's very unique to have all Undead and Horde minis buffed with movement speed here, and with the I think it's Forsaking Fury talent, having Fury out to all our Horde and Undead minis. I think this is a very unique ability for Sylvanas, and I think it's very fun for the game to like. I think it's a good puzzle. It's a good deck building puzzle having these abilities. So Sylvanas, very, 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 very fun. One of my favorite leaders, but unfortunately, I think she needs to be knocked down to 5 or even 4. I think even 4.
Yeah, I actually don't mind 4 because although Banshees cost 4, leaders are supposed to be powerful for their cost, right? So leaders are kind of supposed to be the powerful unit in your deck that they're kind of built around. I feel like you would have to reduce her damage a little bit. Her DPS is crazy high for a single target unit, so you'd have to reduce her damage a little bit and compensate with other stats. But I feel like reducing Sylvanas to 4 isn't bad because you kind of like if you look at Rend, right? Rend is 6, but he rides a 4 gold minion, and then he in himself is basically a Stonehoof Tauren. So he's basically 8 gold's worth of value for 6 gold. If you're essentially having Dark Spear Troll plus Banshee, which is what essentially Sylvanas is to an extent, if you're not running Black Arrow, you don't mind getting a bit of extra value out of your leader for the cost. So yeah, I kind of agree with you.
I would even agree that with the Flaming Soul talent from Rand Blackhead, that's a 6 gold spell.
It's a 6 gold spell that you get for free as
well.
Yeah.
The argument of Sylvanas spawns a Banshee that never lands explains why she needs to be 6 doesn't make any sense to me because of the Flaming Soul talent here that gives us already 6 gold. It doesn't give us 4, it gives us 6 gold, and it's better than it's much better than the Haunt trait from Sylvanas. So yeah, I think definitely we should reduce her cost.
Yeah. Should we go into my next option? Yes. I'm going to go for my own leader, Chalga, and it's a really simple buff that I would give Chalga, by the way, because she's got a unique mechanic, and I don't want you to mess with that. I don't think there is a way that you can change Chalga in terms of her unique mechanic, because it's kind of what she does. But I really feel that she should be I think she should be 1 cost without the talent. I just think that she's so weak as an individual unit. I understand she's a bit more utility, but the talent obviously that makes her 1 gold is nice because not only does it make her 1 gold, it also adds a 1 gold cost to your pool. But I actually think she should just be 1 cost by herself, and then you just rework that talent into something else. because Nature's Grasp is a really nice talent for her because it gives you a bit of AoE and a bit more utility. But it means that she's 2 gold, and she's just too expensive for 2 gold because she's crap. So I feel like I would just make her 1 gold by herself, and then rework that Cavernous Mist talent to something else.
So I completely agree, but I would go with a different buff. For me, I would go that her attack. I wish her attack could attack air. I think that would be very good.
Yes,
I think it would be a good buff. Like, for example, once again, gargoyles. This could be very good against gargoyles. So you can't just play your gargoyle for free in the lane if your opponent has Charlga. So and I think that would just be like it wouldn't make her crazy good, but I think that would be a very good first step once again.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's quite a few things we could do with Charlga. The problem is that no matter I will put this out there. I think no matter what you do with Charlga, she's going to be shit because she's just a little bit too unpredictable. There isn't the consistency. Meme. Yeah, she's a meme. She's a meme deck that you can sometimes cheese PVE with by getting an Abomination and a Huntress out for 3 gold and then just running with it. But ultimately, she's a bit of a meme, and she's too inconsistent, I think, to ever be useful in PvP.
Yep. So for my number 2, it's actually gonna be the Meat Wagon. So I don't know if the Meat Wagon is that bad right now. If it's the Meat Wagon or if it's the meta with Unbounds that just destroy the Meat Wagon. But I love the idea of having a siege unit. I wish they would add a little bit more. This is like very close to me to like a structure in Clash Royale. We have structures, kind of like the X-Bow. I think the Meat Wagon is extremely, extremely fun. It's one of the first minis I've bought. I kind of wish we got a buff to the Meat Wagon. The way I would do it personally would be that so there's a weird interaction where if your opponent has a mini right next to your Meat Wagon, then the Meat Wagon starts attacking with like chains or something in front, and it does no damage at all. And I think you could buff either the damage on that so it could at least survive a little bit more against Unbound minis. I don't know, something like that. I would really like to see more of Meat Wagon in the meta.
It's interesting because I used to think Meat Wagon was bad, and then I talked to a few high-level PvE players, and they said it was like the absolutely most MVP unit for PvE.
Oh yeah, I'm talking PvP.
PvP. Yeah, I guess there's. I agree. I think the only change I'd make to Meat Wagon is make that melee attack a way more impactful because it just feels like it tickles most things. I don't want it to start killing Abominations, but it would be nice if someone drops some skeletons on my Meat Wagon that it could actually kill them. Yeah. So I kind of agree with you on that small buff for Meat Wagon.
All right.
Final unit, is it? Right, scroll down for me because I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look at units as we go. Keep going. I would say Core Hounds, but I think that would be fine if they just have they fixed Eternal Bond on Core Hounds yet?
No, I think they need to fix that. I think that's a bug.
Okay, my next one is I guess Frostwolf Grunts then. Frostwolf Grunts, they're actually, I don't think they're terrible. This is why they're the last in my list. I don't think I think they're so close to being good. I think they just need something else, like maybe armored or resistant or something, just to make them a little bit more impactful. Because right now they're very strong in terms. I think armored would be too OP because that means they could just walk up to a tower and instantly kill it because they have Fury. But like maybe if they got resistant or something along those lines, just to make them slightly more like sort of was considered as a tank unit, because they're just not considered as tank units right now. You've got Stonehoof Tauren in Horde, which is infinitely better and kills stuff way better. So I feel like you just need to give Warsong Grunts something a little bit extra. I think reducing their cost to 4 might be too good because you are getting 2 actually quite beefy units for 5 gold. But if you gave them resistant or just something along those lines to make them less sort of killable by spells or less killable by like Drake and Ren Blackhand and stuff like that, then maybe it would make them a little bit more useful. But overall, I think they're so good to be like so close to being a good meta unit. And I think they work in Grommash decks, but outside of Grommash decks, I just don't think you can really play these units over something like Stonehoof Tauren.
So what's the buff you would suggest?
Either giving them resistant, or maybe slightly or maybe slightly increasing their speed, their walk speed,
Or their
slightly
health,
increasing
or
it slightly.
simply their
Yeah,
health.
yeah, or just something their health. Yeah, just
Mhm.
making them just a little bit more in terms of what they give you for 5 gold, because 5 gold is quite a big spend for units that actually aren't that great.
And they're so iconic too.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
my avatar on my so my whole brand is a Squirtle with the Warsong's grunt shoulders. So I kind of wish the Warsong grunt was a little bit better because of that. It's such an iconic unit. I think this and the Footmen are probably the two most iconic minis which aren't leaders. Yeah, I would definitely want to see a buff to Warsong grunts. I think this is an extremely good pick for me. I think 4 gold works as well here.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah.
to see every single mini go to 4 gold. That's not what I'm asking. But yeah. And for me, my number 3 is actually, I have multiple options. I'm going to give another option. I'm just going to go quickly, the Living Flame. But I'm actually, the Living Bomb, but I'm actually going to go for the Plague Farmer. For me, I think the Plague
Interesting.
Farmer
Yeah.
is, I love low cost minis a lot. I think the Plague Farmer has no value here. I think the if you want to talk about two cost gold mini or a cycle mini that does elemental damage to the ground, I think the Bat Rider just does that job so much better, and it's so much harder to kill the Bat Rider because it's air, so you can actually deal with a lot of stuff. I haven't found any home to the Plague Farmer. I don't know. I don't know how I would even buff him because I wouldn't want to reduce his cost. I think he would maybe reduce the cost to 1 and then have it much weaker, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm still
it
thinking.
just. I don't think there are enough 1 gold units in the game anyway that are like that good. Like chickens are 2 gold, aren't they? But vultures are a meme. Like no one can play vultures. Those units are
Defiance
garbage.
Bandits are fantastic.
The Defiance Bandits are the best 1 cost in the game, and
Yeah.
actually probably one of the best units in the game. They're just so useful. Maybe I should even said vultures, like because I don't even know how you would buff vultures though, because they're just such a terrible unit.
I
Um,
think attack speed for Vulture, like just having them initiate their attack faster.
they're like vultures are like a chicken counter. That's all that vultures do. They're like a counter to chickens, but no one plays chickens.
Yeah, but everything's a
Um,
counter to chickens.
That's true. Chickens are also bad. Yeah, there's a few units. Plague Farmer is interesting because I actually think in PVE as again like there's room for Plague Farmer to be used, but in PvP it's just a bad.
Yeah.
It's a unit that's too easily killable. You wouldn't run this over Blackrock Pyromancer. You wouldn't run this over Ogre Magi even though it's way more expensive. They all fill a role that that Plague Farmer wants to do. Even people, I would even play Meat Wagon in PvP over Plague Farmer. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
longer range, does more damage on the splash. Like it
Mhm.
just isn't fulfilling a niche that isn't already filled by loads of other units. Ultimately,
Yeah. Well, I think Bat Rider just does
the
everything.
same thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but better. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. That's all of the buffs and nerfs that we would like to see. Then I'd love to know what you guys want to see in the comments as well. Like, especially for new players. Like me and Math have been playing for a few weeks, so we kind of have had our views tainted by what we've seen in PvP and what other top level players are playing. But like, are there units that you're playing right now, especially untalented units? So like when you don't have a talent on a unit, because we're obviously kind of taking talents into consideration when we're talking about these buffs and nerfs. But like, is there a unit that you're playing that you're like, this unit feels like it should be way better? Like, I actually think Ogre Magi without talent is like one of the most garbage units in the game. But then you add Ogre Magi's Frostfire talent to the mix, and it becomes a bit more powerful. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys think in the comments. Like, which units and which leaders do you want to see buffed and nerfed?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's a lot of different units that without talents are going to be much worse than what we think of units. So make sure to tell us down below in the comments. Yeah, this has been extremely fun. Tell us also if you guys love these types of videos. We are planning perhaps on doing. I think we were talking about maybe once every 2 weeks, but we have so many topics we could go every week. So
Yeah,
tell us
yeah.
down below if you guys enjoy that. And yeah, it's so fun. I think we both really enjoy doing them. So tell us down below.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've really enjoyed it. We've had a really long discussion today about some cool topics. Um, so long that I might even have to cut out some of it because it's been such a long discussion and it will take about 1 billion years to upload to YouTube.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've had a good time. Of course, if you want to catch the first half of this podcast, you can do in the link in the description below. That'll be over on Big's channel. We're going to do the same thing pretty much most of the time. We'll split our podcast into 2 halves. Big will host one half, I'll host the other. We might split it out so that, you know, I do the first half one day and then Big does the second half the other day. But we're going to try and upload them around the same time anyway, guys, so you'll be able to kind of view them on whichever channel that you want to. And obviously, I'll put all the links to Big Math's channel in the description, as well as his Discord link as well, so you can make sure that you guys go and join his community and chat to him over there. And yeah, if you enjoyed the content, if you've just been listening to this as you've been commuting, or you've just been listening to this as you've been doing whatever you're doing around the house, it'd be cool to know what you guys have been doing when you've been listening to the podcast. But that's me signed off. Big, anything you want to say towards the end?
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first episode of the Rumble cast. I think we've just decided the name. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the first episode of the Rumble cast. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.